Hey everyone, Isabel Fox here, and in this video I'm going to cover the 5 fundamentals of high-class escorting. I entered the adult industry at 18 and spent 3 years wandering around lost and confused. I tried many different things to break out of the rut of high-volume, low-value work, which left me burnt out, fatigued, and financially stuck. I wasted a lot of time and energy on doing things that did not work, until I was lucky enough to meet a business mentor who took me under their wing and really crystallized for me the actual things that mattered to be successful that I should be focusing on. Less than a year later, as a result of these learnings, I was charging $2,000 an hour and had become, at the time, the highest charging escort in Australia. Now I want to share these findings with my fellow industry workers. I want to share them with you. Because if you are where I once was, dealing with the unique pressures which come from working in an unorthodox industry, struggling to make ends meet, wondering what the hell you should be doing to finally realize your potential and make your time in this industry count for something meaningful, then I want you to know there is a better, likely easier way. So hold on to hope because I'm about to share it with you. And make sure you stay to fundamental number 5 because it is the most powerful one by far. Let's begin. Fundamental number 1, attraction. Let me start by addressing the very salacious elephant in the room. Do you need to be attractive to be an escort? The resounding answer is yes. However, attraction doesn't play the role you likely think it does in this profession. When I talk about the fundamental requirement of attraction, what I am referring to is not specifically the physical appearance of an escort, but rather their ability to attract clientele. I've worked in this industry for over 12 years, and in that time I have come to learn there is a market for everyone. Every race, gender, size, age, hair color, and breast size, you name it, someone wants it and will pay for it. But if you don't know how to attract the right clients to you, you will not be successful. I've met many very conventionally attractive women working as escorts who still struggle to make ends meet. If it were as simple as just being hot, then these people wouldn't exist. But they do, and the industry is full of them. And it's because physical appearance is only one part of a working client attraction system. In any service business, you must have a reliable and repeatable client attraction system in place if you want to have consistent and sustainable income. And escorting is no different. You might be the hottest woman on earth, but if you don't have a reliable, repeatable way of bringing clients to you, you won't make any money. So, what does a reliable, repeatable client attraction system look like? Typically, it has 3 components. Number 1 is source. We must have a way of continually sourcing new clients. We need a mechanism by which enough new clients can actually find us and learn about our services. For most independent escorts, this means having an ad or a profile on a dedicated escort advertising website. If you work at a parlor or for an agency, then this would be the way in which that parlor or agency sources new clients. With the rise of social media, I have seen many independent escorts make a misstep here by incorrectly thinking platforms like Twitter and OnlyFans are an adequate replacement for an escort advertising website. Typically, they aren't. And it's because of the second necessary component our client attraction system must have, which is to qualify. Not only do we need a way for new clients to actually find us, but we also need those people to be qualified. Qualified as clients who are genuinely capable of and wanting to purchase our services. Social media platforms are useful for exposure, for getting more people to see us, but it's typically not so useful for bringing in a high volume of qualified clients. And it's because escorting is an in-person service. We only get paid when we actually see a live human being in the flesh and they give us money. Now note, escorts may provide digital services, but this isn't escorting. Here are the attributes a qualified escort client needs to have. Firstly, accessibility. Qualified clients need to physically be able to access our in-person services. This is the biggest problem with relying on social media to attract clientele. If I'm in Australia and a client is in America, unless he's booking a fly me to you or coming to Australia for a visit, he's worthless to me. The second is desire. Desire for an escort's in-person services is not the same as desire for content, and it's not the same as curiosity. qualified clients need to have a genuine desire for the services of an escort. They are rarely curious cats, looky-loos, or picture collectors wanting to get off. And thirdly, means. Unless you're working for free, a client isn't qualified for you unless they can afford what you're selling. There are plenty of people in the world who have access to a Rolls-Royce dealership and dream of driving one of their cars. But if they don't have the financial means to afford the $300,000 plus price tag, they aren't qualified Rolls-Royce clients. Having 10,000 followers on Twitter might look great, but unless a high enough percentage of those followers have the accessibility, desire, and means to purchase our in-person services, we aren't going to get paid. Please don't mistake this for me saying social media is useless and doesn't have a place in an escort's business. It does and can, but it is not the most reliable, repeatable method of attracting qualified clients. And lastly, number 3 is convert. We've successfully converted a client when they hand us money. Successful conversions are largely a product of sourcing qualified clients correctly. When an escort knows how to let enough qualified clients know about their services, conversions go way up and they get paid more. Now, notice how nothing I've touched on yet focuses on an escort's appearance. Again, this is because there's a market for everyone, despite their appearance. You do not need to look like a supermodel to successfully attract qualified clients. I will, however, cover appearance in the next fundamental. Fundamental number 2, communication. This fundamental has 3 parts. 1. Communication of your archetype and point of difference. 2. Communication which drives conversions. And 3. Communication in the room. Let's start with the first one, communication of your archetype and point of difference. This is where appearance matters. Soon I will release a video breaking down the 7 archetypes of high-class escorts. But for now, understand there are 7 archetypes most escorts typically fall into. These archetypes align with common fantasies our predominantly male clientele relate to. When I am working with an escort, the first thing I do is help them identify which archetype they best belong to. Then we work out their key point of difference within that market. Basically, we are figuring out what the escort's USP, unique selling proposition is. We are working out what makes them different from every other escort and how to communicate that difference appropriately in a way which attracts enough qualified clients to them. This might sound complicated, but in practice, it's pretty simple. Basically, which common male fantasy do you best fit into, and then why are you the best option amongst all the other escorts who fulfill this same fantasy? Communication is about being able to convey this message simply, quickly, and effectively to our target market, usually using just an ad which has some pictures and some text on an escort advertising website. So, on to the second. Communication which drives conversions. A key point of frustration for escorts is having to communicate with clients who aren't immediately ready to commit to a booking. I empathize with this frustration. Unfortunately, though, this is a very real part of the job. When I go shopping for a dress and step into a store, I am seldom immediately ready to part with my money just because I walked through the door. I probably need to stroll around, pick stuff up, try it on, and procrastinate a little, and even after all this, I still might not buy. Not because I don't genuinely want a new dress, but because parting with money and deciding on a purchase presents a range of challenges for most people, like fear of loss of the money, fear of disappointment, fear of consequences, and our clients are the same. Just because they find our ad and reach out to inquire with us doesn't mean the work is done. No, in fact, this is when the most taxing part of the job actually begins. I have other videos which break down how to communicate with clients to convert them into paid bookings. For now, just know this. If your expectation is that clients should contact you with clearly articulated, pre-formed booking plans ready to screen and pay you a deposit, then your expectations are wildly unrealistic. This is not how the majority of clients, even high-paying ones, function. Clients almost always need influencing and hand-holding to get them over the line. You will make more money if you accept this as a very real and very necessary part of the job. And thirdly, communication in the room. Clients come for the fantasy and stay for the quality of the experience. A big part of the experience with an escort is how they communicate in person with their client. It's about your ability to make any client who walks through the door feel comfortable, at ease, special, excited, adored, and anything else they might want to be feeling. This is a skill anyone can learn, and it's what sets apart the top 20% of escorts from the rest. Here are 3 strategies I recommend for getting good at communicating with clients and providing a 5-star experience in the room. Number 1, do volume. When you do the same thing many times, you typically can't help but get good. I spent 3 years working in a parlor, seeing a high volume of many different types of clients. Many providers upon entry into the industry want to skip high volume work and go straight to the top. And I get that, I do, but in doing so, you bypass an extremely valuable opportunity to learn and craft important skills. It was actually in high volume work that I learned how to deliver an unforgettable experience to a wide range of different people, which enabled me to work at high rates. 2, go to Toastmasters. Now, Toastmasters is a basically free global network which teaches people public speaking and communication skills. I did it fortnightly, religiously for a year. You go to meetings and you practice communicating on a range of topics with different people. Escorting can be a very insular, lonely profession, and many full-time workers develop social anxiety. I did, and for a time it translated into my work, particularly as my rates crept higher and higher and I spent more time not seeing clients as a low-volume provider. I can remember once doing a booking with a client after a long break and sweating so profusely from nerves I had to excuse myself to the bathroom. Not sexy. Communicating and interacting with clients is very similar to communicating and interacting with the normal population. It starts from within, with how comfortable, relaxed, and at ease you feel within yourself. However, this feeling is even more important as an escort, because our clients absorb and often mirror our energy. It is our job as a provider to take the lead and create a relaxing environment for a client to feel comfortable and at ease in. That is very difficult to do if you're anxious and awkward within yourself. And number 3, be playful. When I was transitioning from low to high value work, increasing my rates and seeing wealthier clients with differing and often higher expectations, I spent a lot of time researching and trying to understand the psychology of attraction between men and women. There are heaps of books and resources I could recommend. My favorite resource being the YouTube channel of the dating coach Matthew Hussey. However, I actually think I can simplify it into this one key trait: playfulness. Playfulness is sexy and attractive. If you can get good at being playful with a client, then more than half your work is done. Many escorts often go through periods of their life when their weight fluctuates. Obviously, they age, or for a range of other reasons, their physical attractiveness may differ to what is advertised on their profile. This is a very real part of a physically demanding job. In my experience, if you can be playful in the room, clients will be very forgiving about any in-person differences. The quality of the experience matters more than your appearance, within reason for 80% of the male population. All right, let's roll right on into fundamental number 3, work. Like actual work. Escorting first entered my mind when I was 15 and saw the show Secret Diary of a Call Girl for the first time. I came from humble means and felt trapped and unhappy by my circumstances, and this show painted a very attractive picture of a life of glamour, freedom, and relative ease. Belle de Jour, the lead character, seemed to spend most of her time moseying about, looking gorgeous in expensive outfits, beautifying, dating real men, and very occasionally going to bookings at super upmarket hotels. I was hooked. I watched episode after episode and dreamed of a day when my life would consist of these things. I had very little regard or consideration for what the actual mechanics of the job would be like at that time. Sadly, like most shows, it was an inaccurate depiction of the real world, or what the job of an escort actually entails. A luxurious lifestyle might be the result of the profession of escorting for you if you do it well and manage your money wisely, but it is not the actual job. Because escorting is in fact just that, a job, and it requires work. As an independent escort, that work involves managing your advertisements, sitting around staying available while waiting for inquiries, responding to inquiries, all of them, even the crappy ones, converting clients, Seeing clients, that includes the boring, the fatties, the smelly, the old, the uglies, and the weirdos, and doing admin. On repeat, every day, week, and month, all year round with no sick pay or annual leave. Because escorting, my friends, is just self-employment. Self-employment is basically responsibility without any financial guarantees. When I was 18, I started a business in another industry, and my boyfriend at the time commented on how lucky I was to have so much freedom and not have to answer to any boss. On the contrary, I had never had less freedom, and I had exchanged the conventional manager boss for a range of bosses in the form of every client I had to answer to make sure they continued to utilize my services and pay me. The primary difference between being self-employed and being employed is not responsibility or freedom, it's accountability. When you're employed, you're accountable to a boss who will obviously fire you if you don't do what they tell you to do. So expectations and consequences are clear and determined for you. When you're self-employed, no external boss is there to do or enforce either of these things. It is all you. If you want to be successful, you need to learn to be accountable for yourself. This is hard and quite shocking at first for most, but hang in there, you will get better. If, as an escort, you aren't spending most of your time doing the following: managing your advertisements, waiting for inquiries, responding to inquiries, converting clients, seeing clients, and doing admin, then you are likely doing the job wrong and probably not making much money. So if you want to start earning more, just start doing more of these things, like actually working, and the money almost always follows. Fundamental number 4, consistency. I escorted for 6 years, and it took me half that time, 3 years, to figure out if I wanted to have any kind of relative financial success as an escort. I couldn't treat it as a side hustle. I couldn't just pick it up and put it down at my whim and fancy. Success in any endeavor thrives on consistency. Boring, basic, unglamorous, bland consistency. Consistency just means doing stuff in spite of external circumstances or your feelings. If you are an escort who's struggling to maintain consistency right now, then here is my 5-point consistency plan for dummies that you can implement right away. Number 1 is get 8 hours sleep. Now, I'm not going to get into the scientific, biological importance of sleep in this video, but just note this. Jeff Bezos, a billionaire, gets 8 hours of sleep a night. Enough said. Number 2, go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. This is harder than it sounds, especially for escorts. It is really tempting to sleep in when you have no burning requirement to get up for an alarm every day. But it is the best way to establish a healthy routine. 3, set your own daily work hours. Pick your clock on and clock off time each day and be ready for work when it starts. So that might mean by 10 a.m. you ensure you're freshly showered, have exercised, eaten breakfast, and are turning your work phone on to respond to inquiries. Now, you don't have to actually be all glammed up for a booking, but you want to be primed to start, so that if you do get a booking, you can be ready with relative ease. 4, have an ordered to-do list for the day. Dead time can be very dangerous for escorts, and it personally used to be the most destructive part of the job for me. I could get my day off to a great start, have slept well, started on time, responded to all my inquiries, and then run out of stuff to do. If I didn't have pre-prepared healthy tasks to fill my time, I would inevitably find myself doing things like shopping and spending all my money, watching TV and becoming sloth-like and unmotivated to respond to inquiries on my phone, or making social plans with friends which distracted me. Every night, have a clear to-do list for the next day, a range of itemized tasks to keep you occupied yet still free to actually respond to inquiries and take work should it come through. And 5, create a reward system for yourself for successfully adhering to the prior 4 tasks. Habit building is all about having positive feedback mechanisms in place so your brain comes to associate certain tasks with pleasure. At the end of my day, when I have completed everything on my to-do list, I look forward to indulging in something I like doing solely for me for 1 whole hour. This is my reward mechanism. Sometimes that hour is spent watching a show on Netflix or talking to a friend on the phone or engaged in a hobby. Whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, although I do recommend it's something healthy and preferably not binging on crappy food or alcohol. The point is, life can't be all hard work and no play. Another extremely important upside of consistency for escorts, besides the fact that it actually results in you making more money, is emotional regulation. When I worked as an escort and in all forms of self-employment I've ever had, the lack of consistency inherent in the job, because you can't schedule when clients contact you and work comes up, led to a lot of dysregulation, especially emotionally. Without a clear plan for the day, I would have too much time to ruminate and fret over whether or not I was going to get any work. Anxiety often snowballed into other emotions, like anger or depression, which then often resulted in me reaching for unhealthy ways to soothe and calm myself, like shopping or eating. This then led to guilt and shame, which was destabilizing and disrupted my ability and willingness to do actual work which made money, like seeing clients. It was hard to perk myself up and get motivated to go and service the needs of a client when I was anxious, ashamed, or depressed. This, of course, meant that I worked less and became financially stressed. This stress fueled further anxiety, and on the cycle went. This is a part of escorting and of all self-employment which I don't think is spoken about enough. A lot of negativity and stigma surrounds escorting and the nature of the people who do the job. But in my experience, escorts are just normal people trying to make a living, who come from all walks of life. The anxiety, emotional, and other issues some of them end up facing are often a product of the unpredictability of the job and the practical challenges that unpredictability creates, and they're less attributable to the sexual nature of the work. Of course, this is just an opinion of my own based on my experience of working with hundreds of escorts for over 12 years. It doesn't make it factually right. But in short, life got better for me in all respects when I learned some basic practical regulation skills which provided me emotional stability. This then had a snowball effect in a positive direction. As I felt better, I did better, and then felt better to do better some more. I have applied this concept of consistency to every area of my life. First to escorting to hit my financial goals, and it worked. Then to diet and exercise to hit my physique goals, it worked again. To my finances, it is working. I routinely make and hit financial goals. And lastly, to my vocational pursuits, my plans and goals for my career. Shortly, I will share how they have successfully evolved over time. Pretty cool, and way simpler than I ever thought imaginable. All it really took was learning how to be consistent. Now, lastly, the piece de resistance, fundamental number 5, is meaning. This is my favorite fundamental because it contains a secret to lifelong transformative power. Discover the gift of meaning. Here's a quote I have saved as a screensaver on my phone. Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live for can bear any how." I started escorting at 18 because I felt trapped and unhappy in my circumstances. I wanted to know I could pay my rent and sleep soundly every night, not plagued by the financial stress and insecurity I'd felt my whole life. Obviously, there were plenty of professions which could have delivered me financial stability. It's just that I personally chose escorting. Despite my initial excitement over the fast money I made compared to other jobs I had worked, I quickly found the job wasn't easy. I got sick a lot, the work was unpredictable, money was unreliable, the parlor I worked at had a toxic environment, girls were bitchy and competitive, and I was too scared of stigma to tell people what I did, so I endured the stress of living a double life. I could have quit without achieving any of my goals and been right back where I started. I certainly considered it many times. But I didn't. I endured, because I cultivated true purpose and meaning for what I was doing. Initially, that meaning for me was to experience life outside of survival mode. And this is true for many escorts when they first enter the industry. They simply want to go from surviving to being able to breathe. This is a purpose which isn't difficult to cultivate. After all, who doesn't want to know they can pay the rent and put food on the table? But after I achieved that, I waned for a while. I stopped working hard. I experienced brief moments of motivation followed by long droughts of inactivity. It took me a few years to figure out that I needed to actually cultivate meaning for what I was doing beyond basic survival if I really wanted to grow and get anywhere. That meaning for me became about setting up and transitioning into the next phase of my life. And so escorting became the vehicle for a different vision. I realized I could use the money I was making and the extra time I had, because I was earning more and working less, to build another business, and that's what I did. By this time, I felt deeply connected to the adult industry and knew I wanted to help other industry workers to progress and get what they wanted out of the job, like I had once had someone help me. So the meaning for my next business, which drove me, became about delivering me the funds and skill set to come back to the industry and do that on a larger scale and to a higher quality. Today, the meaning and purpose I get from my work is about creating an environment where no escort ever again has to go it alone and waste years of their life making mistakes like I once did, and it's the meaning that gets me through every challenge I face in my professional life. You, too, can intentionally cultivate meaning and purpose in any area of your life. It might sound complex and a little daunting, but let me talk you through how I do it. You need to chase the meaning down to its essence. So when I was living in survival mode, initially the desire was to be able to pay all of my bills always on time. If this is where you're at, then ask yourself, why does this matter? The answer might be, if I don't pay my bills on time, there will be consequences. This is a superficial fear. I mean, so what? So what about those consequences? Well, those consequences might be that I get kicked out of my home. Again, I could say, so what? What's the problem with that? If I get kicked out of my home, I don't know where I'll live. So what? I might end up on the street. So what? I won't have what I need to take care of myself living on the street. Aha! So you won't be able to take care of yourself. So the meaning isn't about paying all my bills on time. The meaning is I won't be able to take care of myself. That is big. It is a threat to basic survival. Once I passed this barrier and I satisfied basic survival, I struggled at first to identify meaning in progressing beyond that. I eventually had to ask myself this series of questions. If I don't work out my next steps, I'll be stuck in escorting forever. So what? What's wrong with that? You like this job and you make good money. Well, it's hard on my body. So what? You're young, you've got a long way to go before your body gives out. Well, it's hard to have a relationship. So what? Why do you need a relationship? Life is easier alone. Well, I want to have children and a family, and I'm scared I won't meet the right person while doing this job. Aha! So the meaning is in having a family. See, we need to peel back the layers of our own thinking to identify what's really going on at the core. Then we use those core beliefs and desires to attach purpose and meaning to what we're doing, which drives us. Now, remember, this meaning is about how you think and feel, not what other people think and feel. Many escorts, of course, have loving relationships and families while doing their job. I chose this specific example because it's a common motivating source of meaning for industry workers, not because I think having a relationship and family and working in the industry are mutually exclusive. I do this same type of deep dive when I am trying to analyze and understand any anxiety or fear I might be experiencing. I just chase the fear down to its essence. I peel back the layers till I understand what's at its core. While sometimes painful, it is incredibly illuminating and useful to understand what motivates you and holds you back. Once we know, we can use this information to move our lives forward. Specifically, we can use the knowledge of our core fears and desires to cultivate meaning about why we are doing this job. Now, here is something très cool about these 5 fundamentals when applied routinely over an elongated period of time. And it is incidentally how I actually got to be able to charge $2,000 an hour, leave the industry profitably, start another business, and come back to the industry to do what I love. If you take these 5 fundamentals and organize them into a wheel, starting with attraction and moving around to the right till you end on meaning and come back to attraction again, you lay the framework for the creation of an ever-growing and successful escort business. Here is how it works. We start by attracting clients. Then we communicate effectively with them, which results in us doing actual work by seeing clients. This provides the momentum of belief we need to realize it works, and therefore we do it consistently. Consistency produces results. Results are energizing and fuels our desire to cultivate meaning. When we are driven by meaning for what we do, we take that positive energy and get even better at attracting clients. Now that we've seen more clients and have more experience, we get better at communicating with clients so we convert more, which results in doing more actual work Again, we become more consistent, again, we cultivate meaning, and round we go. This self-fulfilling prophecy works in both directions, downwards and upwards, and can be applied to any area of life. But because this video is about high-class escorting, I will stick to the point. The ever-continuous repetition of this process is what takes an escort further and further upwards, and enables them to charge high-class rates. I alluded earlier to how many people want to enter the industry and hit the ground at $1,000 an hour plus, and these are typically the people who struggle most, because they miss out on all the benefits which come from the building blocks of this process. Everyone wants to be rich tomorrow. Few want to learn real wealth-building knowledge and skills which carry them through life and can then be relied upon regardless of almost any external circumstances. If you are an escort and you follow this formula with the humility and patience which is often required, you will be successful. I have had some incredible and glamorous experiences during my time as an escort, which I'll remember fondly forever. But these experiences didn't make up the largest part of the job. Across 6 years, I was increasingly more successful when I just kept to this method and plugged away putting in the hours. Since then, working with escorts of all shapes, ages, and sizes in varying places across the world, I continuously see the same pattern of failure or success. Those who work one step at a time get to where they want to go. Those who try to skip ahead get stuck. I wish I had known these things myself when I first stepped into the job. If I had of, I would have gotten what I wanted out of the industry that much sooner and with way less stress and anxiety along the way. That's all for this video. Happy escorting, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. If you want to learn more escorting tips, just click the link below this video.